Hello friends, I'm Dr. Nandan Marathi. I completed my MS Orthopedics from said GS Medical College and KM Hospital. I'm interested in spine surgery and I'm presently pursuing a fellowship in the same. Today we'll be discussing the basic pro forma of clinical examination for the spine. In the subsequent videos, we will be talking about some important case scenarios which are commonly seen in your MS as well as BNB examinations. So, the clinical examination of the spine starts with the same basics as the other examinations, that is, look, feel, move, and measure. So, that's the sequence that we usually follow, and then there are the special tests at the end. General examination for a spine patient is similar to the other conditions. One important parameter to be noted is the neurocutaneous markers. Here we see the presence of a hairy patch, and that patch is suggestive of an intraspinal anomaly which is later evident on the MRI. So these neurocutaneous markers have to be looked for and cannot be missed. So the local examination starts with inspection. In inspection, we check for the patient's attitude and deformity. So military attitude, the levels of shoulder are to be noted. Coronal plane deformity like list is an indicator of some underlying pathology like prolapsed intervertebral disc. So here we can see in the image the list that is present where the patient tilts away, and that is a position of comfort. When seen from the side, pinna, shoulder, trochanter and lateral malleolus fall in a straight line. So when it does, grossly the sagittal alignment of the spine is normal. Kyphotic deformities are better appreciated from the side. There are a few known kyphotic deformities, the named ones like knuckle and gibbous, depending on the number of vertebrae that are involved. The lordosis and kyphosis is better seen from side. Knowledge of the normal values of these ranges is important to detect the pathologies. Reduced lordosis, that is flattening or reversal, is seen in prolapsed disc, infection, lumbar flat back, ankylosing spondylitis. On examining from the back, look for position of head, whether it is centrally aligned over pelvis, hairline, webbing of neck, position of shoulders, angles of scapula, presence of any step off, list, and a dimple of Venus. In a case of scoliosis, look for the convexity of the scoliotic curve for the sidedness of the curve. Perform forward bending test known as the Adams test. Lateral bending to assess the flexibility of the curve. Note compensatory curves if any. While examining from the front, note the head and facial symmetry, neck tilt, sternocleidomastoid, location of suprasternal notch, any obvious deformities on the chest, truncal shift, umbilicus, pelvis, and levels of the lower limb. So, as we can see here, these are some of the points that are to be assessed when examining the patient from the front. Inspection is incomplete without a gait analysis. There are a few named gait patterns depending on pathologies. In addition to detecting pathology, motor examination is also done when you ask the patient to do heel and toe walking to check for the ankle dorsi as well as plantar flexors. Next in line is palpation. Start off by measuring the local temperature, note for any tenderness, classically described as direct pressure, rotatory tenderness, and thirsting. While checking tenderness, be gentle, stop if the patient complains of pain. The other findings of inspection, like the kyphotic lordotic deformities, the presence of step in spondylolisthesis, paraspinal gutters, are better delineated and confirmed on palpation. Percussion not routinely performed. I've added this slide just for the sake of completion. Coming to the movements, flexion in cervical spine is assessed by asking the patient to touch chin to the chest. In lumbar spine, perform forward bending to calculate the distance between the tip of fingers and the floor. For extension, ask the patient to look at the roof while checking extension at the cervical spine. For lumbar spine, perform backward bending. Candidates should have knowledge of the average range of these values in order to assess what is pathological. Lateral bending in thoracolumbar spine is assessed by checking the distance between the fingertip and the floor. Rotation is checked by measuring the angle between plane of shoulder and the pelvis. So look, feel, move, measure. So coming to the measurements, we have the modified Schober's test performed by drawing one point 10 cm above and the other 5 cm below the lumbosacral junction. Measure the distance before after forward flexion. Value of more than 5 cm is normal. Chest expansion, vital in a case of ankylosing spondylitis. Excursion of more than 5 centimeters in between inspiration and expiration is considered normal. Some other measurements important in a case of scoliosis are iliocostal and ilio-occipital distance. Also note the limb length because an alteration in limb length might be the cause of a secondary deformity in the spine. The most vital part of a spine examination is assessment of neurology. The motor power in cervical spine is assessed by checking the lateral flexor extensors, forward flexors, and the lateral benders. For trunk muscles, we can ask the patient to perform the Beaver's test and note the movement of the umbilicus. For limb muscles, we go by the myotomal distribution. So this is how a Beaver's test is performed by asking the patient to lift the head upwards and the location and movement of the umbilicus is noted down. For motor power, we go in the sequence of bulk, tone, power, coordination, balance, and position of involuntary movement. The power is graded as per the MRC grade. In conditions where there is spasticity, MRC grade cannot be used and it is better to quantify power as functional or non-functional. In sensory examination, look for fine touch, crude touch, 2-point discrimination, pressure, temperature, vibration, and positional sense. For the sake of completion, I have added the vasomotor examination that we do not routinely perform, but that includes the starch iodine test and the Gutman test. Coming to the reflexes, they are divided as superficial and deep. The superficial reflex, like the plantar reflex, when there is an extensor response, that is an indicator of a UMN pathology. This is the list of the deep reflexes that the candidate is expected to know. Again, in the reflexes, many a times the same patient is being assessed by multiple candidates and the reflexes may be muted. So, knowing the Gendrassik's maneuver or distraction tests in order to get a response is important. Then we look for the ankle and patellar clonus seen when there is loss of UMN inhibition. Some special tests in spine include the Lermit sign, which is a shock-like sensation radiating into the limbs, first described for multiple sclerosis. Sperling's maneuver, extension and rotation of the cervical spine produces radicular pain. Then there are the upper limb tension tests, which are specific for a particular nerve root. Axial compression test, in which radicular pain is reproduced. A very vital test is straight leg raising test, where a value in between 35 to 75 indicates stretch over the nerve roots. In the initial 30 degree, the slack in the root is taken up. In 35 to 75 degree, pain that reproduces as per the patient's previous pattern is indicative of a positive test. There are multiple variants. Crossed leg SLR is more specific than straight leg raising. The other variants include the Bregard's test, Koenig's maneuver, and the bowstring sign of McNabb. Sitting SLR and slump test are the other two variants. In slump test, we sequentially ask the patient to flex cervical spine, straighten leg, dorsiflex the foot. Pain at any point is a positive test and indicates stretch of the nerve root. For the upper roots, that is L234, we perform the femoral nerve stretch test. Can be done in prone as well as lateral position. For spondylosis, we perform a single leg hyperextension test. Pain will be reproduced on the affected side. There are a few tests to increase the intrathecal pressure. These include Valsalva maneuver, Milgram test, and an Apziger's test. Examination of the spine is incomplete without testing for the SI joint. So these are a few maneuvers that are done for testing the SI joint. So this is the basic pro forma of a spine examination. Certain case specific tests in scoliosis, torticollis will be discussed in the subsequent videos. Thank you everyone for a patient listening. Hope you enjoyed the video.